be in. So also check my phone to see um if he'll be in.
Mm.
He got my message earlier when I told him I was running a little bit behind. So everyone who's joining us, I'm sorry that I'm running a little bit behind. Um, Lost track of time, honestly, completely my fault. Um, Too much into, different things. And I was trying to do a little bit of a recap on some of the things which I feel we should highlight on and talk about this week that went on, I guess, throughout the world. And one of the sources which I like to go to and have a lot of trust in is Democracy Now. And so there's a couple of things which were talked about on Democracy Now that I do want to bring up. I'll wait for a little bit till we get Chris in here, so we can pull the video. And then there's something a little bit out of left field that I want to bring up that I saw on the Hill. Excuse me, sorry. Just rushed down a little bit of food. Still running behind, but it's something since I was a kid. It's always kind of piqued my interest and excitement, and it has to do with so-called UFOs. And so I wanted to bring that clip up hopefully later on, and have a little bit of fun seeing it because most of the time when they have these UFO sightings, they're kind of blurry. It's hard to tell what it is, and this one is kind of it's the first one I've seen that's like an actual high def version. I mean, high def photo image, and so I'll try to share that one also. I guess without further ado, I will start the show. I babbled long enough. Hello, this is What I've Been Thinking, the panel, and I am here with my co-host and good friend Harut. How are you doing today, Harut?
I'm good. I'm good.
What have you had going on this week?
Same struggles that everyone else is dealing with. Struggling to pay the rent, find a job. It's not easy because one thing that I had to experience was okay, so there was a job listed online and I went to it and it turned out they weren't even hiring. They were just like collecting resumes to possibly call later. And it's like it's starting to feel like people are going through a hard time, but those who are able to survive and thrive are now just like seeing, there are certain areas of society that they're able to exploit. And a lot of people are desperately looking for work. And it's just like a way for them to like be able to go through the um, large amount of people who are unemployed and see who they can get at a later point in time. And it's disheartening for someone who is unemployed like myself because you put in a million applications a day and no one gets back to you. So yeah.
Is it in a particular field that you notice that's being hit more directly, or is it just kind of like across the board what you see in the New York area?
I'm mostly looking into hospitality, but I've applied it into many different fields, whatever I can get at this point. And it seems like that phenomenon is something across the board. And I'm sure other people are experiencing it too because we're all competing against each other for the same small amount of jobs that are available. So it's disheartening, you know. I mean, we're not making much to begin with, and to have to compete for um, the small amount of jobs that are available is one thing, but then to like it feels like I'm being exploited, I'm in a hard time and I'm being exploited for that. I'm being exploited for my experience, being exploited for my just yeah, it's just disheartening. Yeah.
Do you think, on the tails of that, if there's going to be any possibility of some kind of stimulus that we might see, some kind of jobs program, or even just, the raise of, like some kind of immediate like raise in the minimum wage? Do you see any of those kind of things possibly happening, or them increasing maybe unemployment benefits? I mean, I honestly, to be honest, feel a little skeptical right now. I feel like COVID is mostly the focus, but I mean, what do you think?
I mean, the fact that they haven't even closed up restaurants down like in New York shows that I don't like they don't want us to be sitting at home. They want us to be working no matter what. And um like being unemployed, like it feels like, this should be the time that they put out a stimulus because I know I'm not the only one struggling with this. There are millions of us in this country dealing with this, but we have no support. Like, look at other countries, look at France, look at the UK. They're paying up to 80% of people's wages and they want them to stay home. But the death toll keeps going up from COVID, and I'm still out here like walking around talking to people, putting myself at risk for getting COVID. And in a normal like not even a normal situation, in a developed an average developed country, this would be the time to give us a stimulus. This would be a time to up the unemployment benefits. But it's not. It hasn't happened yet, and it's probably not going to happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, I kind of have the same opinion. I know a lot of people feel like once the situation kind of plays out with Nancy Pelosi and becoming the Speaker of the House or not becoming the Speaker of the House, that maybe there's a possibility that if they, I guess, leverage the right way for speakership, that they might be able to get some kind of a package. I heard something on let's see, what was it? Jimmy Dore. And I know some people on the left, they're not quite a fan of Jimmy Dore. You have that whole Bernie and Tulsi kind of division thing still going on.
Yeah.
But the way I am is if the information seems solid and the criticism about person is fair, even if it's a little harsher than I would go, then that's perfectly fine. That's them. That's their way they decide to represent themselves. Hey, there's my man Chris right there. But if they decide to have a harsher critique than myself, I'm not going to throw out the whole critique just because it's a little bit too harsh. What I was talking about, Chris, is I was talking about how Jimmy Dore was kind of how he had some critiques roughly about Bernie and some of the squad members, and I know a lot of the people that we have in the left community have completely like just cut off anybody who associates, with the whole I guess Jimmy Dore wing. And interesting thing is, I saw an interview with Sam Cedar, and Sam Cedar was actually coming to the acknowledgement that wait a minute, maybe Jimmy Dore does have a point on some things. And I watched another interview shortly after that with Jordan Sheridan of Status Quo. And in that one, he runs down all of these different, some of the stuff which happened with Bernie, how Chris Hedges was predicting exactly how it was going to go and certain critiques that he didn't do. And many of us, Jimmy Dore admitted it that he was blind, but he was one of the people who interviewed Chris Hedges to actually hear that face to face. Some of us didn't actually hear those interviews or things like that, so we didn't have any kind of inkling that Bernie would kind of, get a little soft in the spine towards the end. In my opinion, I feel like he completely collapsed. So, I mean, what do you think about what I'm saying, Chris?
Hello, everyone. Marcus, what's up? Harut, nice to
Yeah.
meet you. I see you all the time, but it's my first time being on with you. How you doing? I hope well. Yeah, look, Jimmy Dore, the guy, what's his name? Jordan Chariton from Status Quo, the Status Quo. I listened to them, during the campaign season, and I think they're catching up to where, frankly, where I already was, because I had already seen it. Again, we saw 2016 happen. Bernie really didn't put up as much of a fight as he should have. I mean, that was really, really bad what took place. We can see from all the emails and everything. There is a, how can I say it? There's a habit on the left, or I don't even want to call it left, I'll just say amongst disaffected Democrats, right, or liberals. There's a habit amongst them to ignore any and all information that they don't agree with. They will not look at it. And if you start to become critical of their ideas or their positions or their favorite politicians or media talking heads, they're going to try to cancel you. We can see it over and over again. So to me, I see Bernie on TV, I see Bernie online. I'm like, shut the up. I ain't gonna lie. I can't listen to him no more. Matter of fact, me and my friend, we think, you remember the Body Snatchers? We think he been snatched. We try to figure out who he really is.
I mean, I definitely wondered the same thing. What do you think, Haru?
I find it difficult to I'm frustrated with Bernie too, because he's the guy that really got me into politics. Because before Bernie, it was this feeling of powerlessness, where unless you're a part of the elite, you have no voice, And I think we have to acknowledge how brave he is as a politician, just as a politician, because there was a time where I actually did a tour of the Capitol building, and one of the guys that we were meeting with was the chief of staff for Senator Gillibrand. And he straight up just told us that Bernie has no friends on Capitol Hill. Everyone blames him for Hillary losing. And it's kind of it's like a schoolhouse. At lunch, he sits alone. He does things by himself. And to me, you're right. He shouldn't. He shot the bed in 2016 and in 2020. Mm-hmm. But I think we have to acknowledge that he is limited because he is a politician, and him and the squad are both limited as to what they can do, because in order for them to pass anything, they have to maintain friendships with liberals, conservatives, what have you. If we want to see any kind of change, we have to push for it from the outside. We have to be the ones putting the fire under these people's asses. It's got to be us. I understand why Bernie bent, because whatever he did, people would have come after him. And you must have noticed on Twitter, no matter what that man did, he's going to be called a sexist, even though he's the farthest from a sexist. I've seen people call him racist. I've seen people call him all these things, and he is absolutely not. He doesn't control the media. He doesn't control how what he says is distributed.
He's the one Jewish guy that you can attack all over the place, and it's okay, right? So that was ironic in itself.
Yeah, you remember that rally where somebody took out a Nazi flag and just flew it during his rally, and his family died in the Holocaust. Why is nobody protecting him? Why is nobody speaking out for him?
Because amongst his clan, he would be called self-hating, right? Or
that's the thing. Not only did they not protect him. Remember with the whole Jeremy Corbyn stuff, they tried to call him anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
It was like a dual attack on both of them across, here and in England. And you could see that the criticism was all the same. It was all baseless. It was all lies. And it was all coming from the same group of people. So that should have told you that whatever Bernie was on, the powers that be really did not want that to come through, which is why they didn't offer him anything. You can see Biden and them. That's Bernie who? I don't even know who that guy is.
Well, if you followed, I used to follow, I still listen to him from time to time, but the Progressive Soapbox, on his show, he talked often about UK politics and some of the Clinton, some of their so-called hatchet men and women, they were employed in the UK, and they were helping out with some of the factions within the Labour Party. And that's the same thing that was going on, which we had in the Democratic primary between the corporatist or centrist party and the, I guess, liberal, socially liberal to, progressively, economically, liberal.
Now, I'm sorry.
If that isn't showing that we need a new party, something separate not just here, but like we need a universal workers' party. I mean, Labor used to be that in the UK, and now you have like labor starting with Tony Blair, and like like all these other opportunists coming in, not really coming at it from this perspective of the worker. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Chris. Go ahead.
No, you're good. It's right when you say that we need like a new party or a mass movement away from this neoliberal, neoconservative, what have you. We do, but unfortunately, I think that the system is so corrupt and screwed up. You're just even look at the Squad, for instance. Like they can't even bring themselves to be even like when they criticize Pelosi, it's done very lightly. Like, excuse me, ma'am, you have something in your teeth. Please don't hit me. Like that's how they come across. Even with the stimulus, right, surrounding the corona stuff. It's come out this week that the Democrats could have had a better deal, and now they're accepting a deal for less money for the people. Like, we supposed to like, where's the Squad on that to say like, hey, leader, you screwed up. Like, I need to hear that. I need to see that. You need to put some energy behind that. Put some spice in it, because you get real spicy when you talk about a Donald Trump, right? But you gotta keep that same attitude, that same energy for across the board. Because these people are not your friends, right? You're here to do a job.
Sorry, muted myself and then I muted myself. But I see we got a couple of chats in here. Let's see. Bernie was was part of preparing the public for stealing the election. He was one of the politicians that followed the guidelines of the tip when he did that interview saying there would be no. Yeah. And then the winner on election day.
Marcus, I can't disagree with that.
Oh, what was that?
No, I was saying I can't fully disagree with that, because then even now when you look, maybe at the time you couldn't have seen that or maybe accepted that. But now in hindsight, let's look back. Look at all his actions. Even now, you see even his Twitter feed. I don't know who's running it, but it sounds like blue MAGA. It's like Trump is the worst, back Biden. And I'm like, Biden is, him and that whole squad is just horrible.
Mm. I mean, again, we have to come before we move on. This commentator, I think, is absolutely correct, but I think that Bernie came at this with different intentions, and he doesn't seem to want or doesn't know how to take control of the conversation. And it's understandable because we have corporate-owned media against him. We have the Democratic establishment against him. If it were a different situation, a different party, if the world were a different place, then, maybe this wouldn't have been the issue. But unfortunately, you have to be here to fight. You have to know. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that Bernie's journey and Trump's journey are very similar if you look at it in terms of, well, one, they ignored Bernie. Two, they gave Trump maximum like airtime, right? But yet they gave him maximum airtime only to humiliate him when and where they could. They ignored Bernie clearly because they didn't want to come up off any money. They don't want government doing anything for the people. So for different reasons, you can see that the powers that be had issues with both of them. But yet I can even look at Trump and say like, well, you're not as much as an outsider as you claim to be, because you signed Operation Warp Speed into play. You're going to have the military all on these streets trying to administer this vaccine when most of your supporters have been telling you not to do this. So, he's into it too. Again, he's very subservient to Israel's desires. He's subservient to the Saudi Arabians' desires. You look at Yemen, you see what's going on. He's saying nothing about it. He's allowing it to go on. So I think we got to stop looking at these politicians or Democrats or Republicans. We got to start looking at each other. Like, what do you need? What do I need? How can we make it work? And how can we grow and build our own communities away from this? Because they take you inside, they show you inside. It's super nice inside, right? They got nice everything. You're looking at the curtains. You're like, what is that, velvet? Right? Like, it's super nice inside. So then you don't really want to burn the place down anymore because, yo, it's kind of nice in here. So it's best we just try to stay away from what they got going on over there.
Mm.
Well, that's what a lot of people don't realize. They feel like they're going to be able to get inside and change the system, and you don't understand how massive and how complex the system is. And that system is not something that just popped up 4 years, 8 years, over the past 40 years. You got to remember, a lot of these politicians, they literally know these the people in the media. They grow up knowing each other. You have this speaker who used to babysit this now congressman. You have a lot of these very, very close familiar relationships, which we don't often see or notice that are going on. And when you don't notice that, and then they just hop on, the nightly news, CBS or 60 Minutes or something, and they talk about, oh, well, this was the hardest bill that I had to fight for, and I was going against, this senator that always gives me the problem from whatever state, Arkansas. And then you find out that they're actually fishing buddies and they actually hang out all the time. And one of them is actually the godfather of the other senator, even though, one is a Republican, one's a Democrat. It doesn't matter until you start looking at where their actual interests lie. And that is in the donor, and that's in the donations and the donors. And when you find out who their donors are, most of the time it's going to be telecommunication companies, pharmaceutical companies, oil companies, gun manufacturers, or any of the numerous, giant companies which are within ALEC. And those who don't know about ALEC, you need to look it up, because a lot of our bills that are passed through ALEC. Most of our legislators are not sitting there with their staff ironing out the details with the lawyers trying to figure it out. These are corporate lawyers who are bringing it to our elected officials, and because of donations and promises they made before, they're just rubber stamping it. And in the mid 2000s, there was actually a lot of cases where they were bringing bills to the floor and it still had the ALEC seal on the bills.
Yeah.
And so that's when it first started coming out. I noticed Kelly has a comment there. I'll start with you, Huru. What do you think?
What do you guys honestly think about Nick Brana and the People's Party? Well, I mean, the People's Party has seemed to gain a lot of traction. I'm actually a little bit excited to see what happens. But I'm a little worried because I live in New York, and our governor is doing absolutely the most to stamp out any third parties, any independent parties. One of our most prominent ones, the Working Families Party, essentially went against him in our last Democratic primary in support of a progressive running against him. And he's doing the absolute most to ensure that they lose funding, that they lose their place on ballots and things like that. So I'm curious to see what the organizing is going to look in my home state. I know that they've been really successful on to getting ballots, I think in Wisconsin, but I don't know. If you guys know, correct me. So it might just be a slow climb. If they're doing it in some states, they'll do it in the rest, and maybe New York will catch up. Or maybe the few people in power are going to ensure that they maintain that power, and even after they leave office. I mean, that's what the Clintons did, and Hillary Clinton got her start in politics as a senator in New York, and that's probably one of the reasons why, is once you have a position of influence in the New York State Democratic Party, you always have that position of influence. You'll always have that position of power, essentially. So, so I'm originally from Western New York, from Rochester, but I currently live in the city in Washington Heights. So yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, are you there now?
No, I'm in South Florida. I'm in the sixth borough. There's
You
5
can come
boroughs.
back to me.
South Florida is the sixth borough because you could throw a rock out here. The next person you hit, they from New York too. I promise.
I believe it. It's the weather. Like people don't want to stick around. They want to go somewhere warmer all the time. But I want to hear what you guys like. What's going on in your states in terms of the People's Party? I know that they're trying to organize around here, and I want to get into. I want to like start with it as well once I get my footing in terms of like my financial situation. But I want to hear what you guys have to say about it as well.
The People's Party sounds good in theory. I'm just a little concerned that they are still too tied to Democrats and Democratic Party politics and the Democratic Party politicians and media friends. I don't know if they're fully, because here's the thing: if you need a People's Party, you have to attack those people too. You may have to even go at them harder than you would maybe Republicans or conservatives. I say this, a perfect example. Trump is the devil, he's evil, right? But yet he still managed, him and his family donated to Kamala Harris, right? What does a New York dude donate to a California Democrat, right? So you can just see the whole system is just, it's filthy. And then, Kamala is the vice president-elect. I mean, granted, it's only a few $1,000s, but even just for principle, they do all kind of fake shit anyway, right? So why she ain't on principle, like write a check back to Donald Trump saying like, I don't need your money. But she didn't do that. So the People's Party seems like a good idea to me, as long as you are willing to put both Republicans and Democrats in the same basket and treat them and view them the same.
Yeah. I want to add to that as well, because the way I see a third party happening or a third party being successful is by taking those progressive members of the Democratic Party, people like AOC, like they have to be brave enough to break away and become part of this new party. And no offense to them, they're doing great work, but at the same time, I don't see them being brave enough right now to do that, because I mean, at the least they could call out Nancy Pelosi, and they're not even really they're not really doing that, So again, I think that if something like the People's Party were to become successful, it starts with those people. But even then, do we have to completely rely on a People's Party? Why can't we organize outside of our liberal democracy or our liberal non-democracy, whatever it is?
Marcus, can you put VC comment on?
Oh, which one?
VC.
Okay.
Yeah, can you put VC comment on? I think you commented. Okay, there it is.
Oh, not gonna join any lib adjacent project, direct action and revolution motivated movement, or it's just a waste of time.
Correct.
I guess I can answer both of the questions at the same time because they kind of tie together with my answer. I definitely for the longest advocated for the Mike Gravel school of thinking, a lot of direct action. Let's write our own legislation. Let's get our own signatures. Let's make our own laws. And when you do it that way, it doesn't matter who's in there because there are certain parameters which they still have to follow. And granted, they can try to bucket like you've seen in certain states, like Florida's trying to go against letting the freed felons have the right to vote back.
That's purely the Republicans at that too. That's
exactly.
purely the Republicans.
But you can still win. You can defeat them. But
even if
that's the best approach, I feel.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to say, even if they're allowing felons to vote, Like, who are they voting for? Are they voting for the same people who are going to try to put them back in prison again, who are going to benefit from that? Like,
Mhm.
what's the point? I mean, yeah, they need to write the vote. That's their that's their birthright, is to be able to vote. But the fact they had to vote for something so minuscule is that, like, it's just, I think one thing that we as organizers and revolutionaries need to we need to understand is that we need the ability to let go of this system. We can't, we're all black here. Like, why are we so attached to a liberal system that was created by slave owners who didn't even think we were people? Like, why are we so attached to it? You know, I'm not, the Constitution is an interesting body of work, but at the same time,
Well, I'll say in my defense, I'm kind of speaking devil's advocate, in a sense. I feel like it's kind of like this. It's kind of like you have a babysitter, and all the kids are playing together, and some kids do some bad stuff, and their parents are coming to pick them up. And what we don't realize is, in this whole grand scheme of the way I see things, parents are coming to pick us up soon, and they're not going to be happy. And it's a little bit too late to try to figure out how you're going to duct tape the vase back together. The consequences are going to start happening. Now, whether you see that through a spiritual way or you see that through a scientific way, if you look at what's going on with the insects, how they're starting to disappear, food sources are starting to go away. We're starting to have, different famines and plagues. You're starting to have the truckers are talking about striking because they're worried about the trucks coming online and that throwing more people out of work. It's a lot of factors that are pressing on everybody, and it's like, you guys should have started organizing before. Now it's a little bit too late to be out there with picket signs when they decide, boom, we've already done this, we've done that. We don't need you anymore, because if it gets to that point, they don't need the labor anymore. So you're completely disposable at that point if they get the machines, working. And this 5G thing, which they're talking about, is going to eliminate most of the lag time and problems which most cell phones and systems have. And so that's the only reason why they haven't went online with a lot more of these systems. Like you see in the grocery stores, it's going to be more of that, and it's going to be even stockers, which they've already worked out that can do that too. What were you going to say, Chris?
I was going to say, going back to what you said when you referenced automation and stuff, again, to the average Democrat, when you try to talk about things beyond electoral politics, they don't want to hear it, right? Because then to their brain, it's like, oh, that's conspiratorial, and I don't want to talk about it. Like, all right, fine. Put your head in the sand if you want. Most of them don't look like us. We have a very different experience in this world. We don't have the luxury of ignoring certain things. It comes at our peril to be as ignorant as your average Democrat voter who pays attention to nothing other than their favorite politician. So with that being said, consider all of the tax cuts from Bush, Obama, Trump, all of the bigger companies that receive these tax cuts. What did they do? They're investing in automation. They're trying to find ways to increase production without having to alter their profit margin. So obviously you're going to look at automation, robots, etc., and you're going to be looking to try to remove humans from that equation, which is what we're seeing across the board. It's like, wake the hell up. You're not going to be able to just vote your way into a different system. It's not going to work. Going into Sign's comment, Signs was good. Going into Sign's comment, getting rid of the Electoral College. Again, you notice the Democrats have said nothing about that. They've lost 2 elections now, or, well, actually, they won this one. They won this one because I don't believe that shit. But anyway.
Honestly, like, the Electoral College is the least of our problems. If anything, let's be anti the Fifth Amendment. Like, we don't, private property. Like, there's a difference between personal property and private property, and we need to understand that difference. And then we need to start, sorry, what?
No, I was going to say, speaking of private property too, we all need water to live, right? And you see people be buying up all this private property, with all these aquifers and water on it, like a guy T. Boone Pickens, who just passed away, I think this year, last year, whatever. But He bought a ton of land with water on it. So they're gonna sell you water after they jerk you. So that's stuff we got to be paying attention to. And I don't see any attention to that on the Democratic side of politics. I just don't. They're more concerned with rights for certain groups. You know,
they're not. That's fake. They're not concerned with that. No, they're concerned about getting reelected. And if that means pretending to care about the rights of certain groups, and that's what it is. Like,
well, I think what it is the only thing that they can't really change in the system, the only thing that they can change in the system are some of these social arguments and stuff. So if they want to argue about, you know, transgender bathrooms, then yeah, let's jump on that fight. Let's go. We're macho about that. But when it comes to, well, can we get workers' right protection? Well, we'll see. And that's what it is. They figured some of these other issues, which they feel seem sexy or more controversial, that really don't change much for most average people,
especially economically.
They will prompt those fights up and talk about that stuff, but they don't want to talk about what's going on with the drinking water in Flint or Texas or, you know, South Carolina. They don't want to talk about these issues. But they'll say, you know what? Let's talk about how, you know, there is rampant like misogyny in the military. Let's talk about that issue. And it's like, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that other people's concerns are not valid and are not serious. We gotta prioritize some stuff here.
My favorite is listen to black women, right? Black women lead. Listen to black women. Listen to black women. Cori Bush said something, and it's like, oh, wrong black woman. Sorry. So it's like, yo, come on, man.
I mean, to me, it just feels like, okay, they're saying what they have to say in order to, you know, go viral or get the right amount of attention so that they can, you know, become like, to me, if you're not doing enough to solve the problem, then you're not really for the rights of these, like, for example, for transgender folks, like making sure that they have bathrooms to go to in all 50 states is very, very important. But what are you doing to ensure they're not getting murdered? Because transgender black women are the ones that are getting targeted. Like, the cops are constantly, you know, harassing them. What are you doing about that? Oh, I'm sorry. No. Is defund the police too much for you? Like, it's just like they do the bare minimum, again, to get reelected. They don't give a shit about us. They don't give a shit about any minority. So, like, the small little things that they do for us, they're nothing. They're absolutely nothing. It's all a ploy.
That's why they can do the kente cloth, you know, kneeling thing at the Capitol, and I'll make a big deal about that. But what legislation that's going to get passed is going to make a difference for most melanated people walking through the streets of America?
I just don't understand who saw that and was like, oh yeah, yes, queen. Like, I don't understand how I was extremely offended by it. I don't know, like, who said that was okay for them to do.
I wouldn't address that comment that Sign said before. Waiting for a job opening at Solient Factory. I know some people are a little younger in the audience and maybe they don't get into some of the old school movies, but I recommend definitely look up the movie Soylent Green.
Soylent Green. Soylent Green. Soylent Green.
Yeah.
It's a classic. Chris, are you shared to be able to share your screen? Do I have you set up?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to bring up what was it? Democracy Now. Which one was it? It was the one from 2 days ago, December 4th. I wanted to talk about some of those other issues first, and then I wanted to talk about some of the COVID issues after we kind of went into a little bit of, you know, Democracy Now. We could show the whole entire, you know, episode, well, that whole clip. That's like a 12-minute clip. But we're only going to show,
Who do you want me to?
Huh?
Who do you want me to show? Because there's a couple videos from the 4th. It's Dr. Paul Farmer or the colonization part, the Lagos massacre. Anyone?
What is this one?
Fevers, feuds, and diamonds and lessons from West Africa.
It's like 16. It's 1605. All I can see is the time on it. Oh, hold on a second. What is the heading of this one? Yeah, it just said, oh, top U.S. and world headlines.
Okay, just like going to the start of the show.
Yeah, it's just the beginning headlines, and
Got it.
they
Okay.
started in on a good portion talking about the numbers and some of the lockdown procedures and some of the fatality rates rising, and so I wanted to put that out with actual numbers so that we can kind of hear that and it'll be fresh in our head instead of me just recalling. Kelly said that movie pisses her off.
Go ahead. What happened?
Sorry, she said that movie pisses her off on the soy and grain. Yeah, it's I don't want to spoil it for anybody, so I'll just say check it out. It's probably on YouTube for free by now. I mean, I think it was probably late 80s or early 90s, something like that.
There you go. I'm about to pull it up. Give me 1 second.
Okay. Nah, let's see. Sign says also, I have a 4x4 Bernie sign that says in corporate socialism on the Highway 101 frontage, but I am in a small town in Oregon. Well, I mean, you were trying, at least you stayed strong too. We can't say Bernie was a steady stalwart with you the whole way. Oh, I was supposed to say it freaked me out for a minute. I just saw a white man pop up.
Marcus, you have I'm not logged in under you, so you have to add that thing to the screen.
Oh, my bad.
Now you good.
I was like, who is this dude? Where'd he come from? How'd this dude get the link?
It's slowing down. Researchers are now warning the U.S. death toll may near 540,000. That's over 500,000 dead by April. Today, we'll speak with one of the world's leading infectious disease doctors, Paul Farmer, the co-founder of Partners in Health.
All of these epidemics find their way to exploit social disparities and inequalities and take their greatest harvest around among the poor and vulnerable. The question we're asking is that the case? Does that need to be the case? And of course, the answer is no, it does not.
Dr. Paul Farmer will talk about the pandemic, healthcare inequality, and his new book, Fevers, Feuds, and Diamonds, Ebola and the Ravages of History. All that and more coming up.
Marcus, let me know where you want me to stop it.
Welcome to
Okay.
Democracy Now, democracynow.org, the Quarantine Report. I'm Amy Goodman. The United States has set yet another world record for daily coronavirus cases, hospitalizations, and deaths, with over 216,000 infections confirmed Thursday and more than 2,800 deaths. Nearly 101,000 people are hospitalized with COVID-19 across the U.S. In California, Governor Gavin Newsom has imposed sweeping remain-at-home orders covering the vast majority of California's population.
Just in the last 14 days, close to 1,000 Californians have lost their lives due to COVID-19. The bottom line is, if we don't act now, our hospital system will be overwhelmed. If we don't act now, we'll continue to see a death rate climb.
Governor Newsom's order came a day after Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti warned Los Angeles is nearing a devastating tipping point, ordering residents to remain at home and skip social gatherings in order to prevent needless suffering and death. In Rhode Island, officials have opened 2 field hospitals with a combined 900 beds to relieve hospitals as COVID cases hit new record highs. Rhode Island Governor Gina Raimondo says the problem now is finding enough medical workers to handle the surge. On Thursday, she appealed to retired and unemployed healthcare workers to join the effort. President-elect Joe Biden has nominated Vivek Murthy to serve as U.S. Surgeon General to help lead the response to the coronavirus.
I got you.
Right there.
Murthy previously served as
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
Marcus,
that's
I just did it.
just yeah. We'll pick back up a little bit more, but there's like two more segments that are right back to back in there. But that's kind of like what's been going on with out here in California. There have been all kind of different new regulations and guidelines that have been put out by Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Garcetti. So for me, I haven't noticed very much of a difference because I'm technically a essential worker. But I haven't seen people's behavior change much either. And I know that people who before have said that they don't know anybody who's infected or that has it, we're starting to see more and more people where it's starting to get to a point where everybody knows somebody that has gotten it. So that's where we are as far as California, and it's looking like and it's kind of interesting. You go to some parts of town and they are shut down. Some they are still serving inside with masks. Some without masks. Some they're outside at little patio kind of setup. So it's just been kind of interesting how it's been going here. And then I've also noticed some of the stuff that's been going on overseas. So what's been going on down there for you, Chris?
Here, it's funny that I live in an area where there's a lot of like bars, clubs, bowling alleys, movie theaters. I mean, that's right on my block outside my house, outside my apartment, right? People still outside living their lives, right? They're not scared. But I just want to say there is some, for whatever reason, there's a hesitation among people to want to delve into the backgrounds of the people who are telling us to be fearful. I'll use your state as an example. LA mayor, California governor, other California officials all have been on TV within the past 2 or 3 weeks, just like really trying to scare the shit out of everyone. Each and every one of those politicians who told you to be scared were caught outside after. So it's like, are you really scared? Because you're telling everybody to be scared, but you're not taking any precautions to even protect yourself or your families, right? But for us, we're supposed to behave and move in certain ways. I'm just curious as to why they're not scared, but you are. Not you as in Marcus, but just in general.
No, I've noticed, and it hasn't just been stateside. It's been international. I've been seeing like Belgium, different politicians and British politicians and Australian politicians. All have been kind of caught in these same kind of situations, including Italy also. What do you think, Haru?
Well, I mean, we all know that those elite who aren't afraid are probably the ones that are going to get the top medical care, like the top-notch medical care. So, of course, they're not afraid, and they don't have to pretend that they are. They can put out the message. They can do what they have to. But again, it's always for them. I don't even think it's about like lives. I think it's about getting reelected, and it's something that's very inhumane. It's like why. Sorry.
Let me ask you guys a question real quick. Sorry, Haru. Let me ask you guys both a question. If doctors and hospitals were not given a financial incentive to treat COVID patients or to diagnose everything as COVID, do you think that our numbers and diagnoses would look different?
That's a good question.
Given that we as a group, just as Americans, as people in general, our value is money, right? You don't care about you care until you get money, and then you don't care, right? On some levels, obviously. Some of us have principles, right? Not everybody. But my question is, if you're getting thousands of dollars more for treating the same patient, and you're just diagnosing them as COVID, you're writing COVID on the paperwork. I'm just kind of skeptical, right? Because we love money, and you're telling me if the only thing I'm treating my patient, they have a flu or a cold, you're telling me I could get $8, $9, $10, $12,000 more just to putting down COVID on here? Why wouldn't you? So that's my question.
I mean, I want to say that, you know, well, doctors are under the Hippocratic Oath, not the administrations of hospitals, you know. So I want to say, I really want to say that they would, but if I want to be honest with myself, I want to say that they wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we just gotta stay within, you know, the bounds of this society and what we see that's kind of propagated throughout. I mean, we already know most of our politicians are crooked. Not that long ago, we had a sports team owner lose his sports team because of comments that he's made. We know about teachers who often are messing around with students. We know about police officers who plant drugs. And so it's like, at what point do you not suspect everybody that there's the possibility that they're corrupted or corruptible? And I'm not saying everyone is or it's the majority, but all it takes is let it be 5% of the doctors out there fudging numbers across the board. You know, that's a problem, you know.
I mean, it was like in the beginning of Corona back in February and March when they were showing that hospitals in New York City were under siege, and you know, it was so many patients. The image that was floating across CBS, NBC, you know, who else? Fox, UPN or whatever used to be UPN, CW, whatever. It was a picture from Italy that they were trying to say was New York City hospitals. So from the beginning, and how do you make that mistake? Like, oops, we screwed up. So to me, I'm looking at the track records of all these people involved. It's no good. There's a lot of corruption in regards to Fauci, Birx, and Redfield, even Tedros from the World Health Organization. There's bad stuff in their past, and for whatever reason, people just will not look and will not take the next step. And I'm watching it, and again, we have Joe Biden saying, look, it'll go away if we wear masks. Look, I don't wear a mask. I'll be the first to say it. Criticize me, make comments. I don't care. I don't play that shit. You know what I'm saying? But every time I go someplace, I'm the only one who's not wearing it. So all these people are wearing it, and the numbers continue to go up, 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 up. What's going on? What's happening?
I mean, I feel like in order for us to really have a good view as to like how the coronavirus crisis is really being taken care of, we need to look at like crises that are still going on. And like the closest example that I can think of is the opioid crisis, you know. Where did that come from? And it came from doctors overprescribing opioid medication. Now, thank God they were racist and they thought, oh, black people are going to get addicted, so let's not prescribe it to them. Like, but the reason why the doctors were doing that is because they were getting kickbacks from the corporations that were selling it. So, like how do we have faith in a system that is so sick? You know, how do we? And I'm not going to blame doctors because it's hard. You can't blame individuals for the sickness that is the system, you know? So we can look at other places that have universal health care, New Zealand, like European countries, things like that, who are also having these issues but aren't having it to the same extent that we're having it, you know? How do we have faith in these individuals that are perpetuating, continuing the same system that is allowing black and brown people to die, that is allowing all people to die, you know? I mean, that's like, I just want to like end with this comment, you know, we have the Communist Manifesto, you know, workers of the world unite, you have nothing to lose but your chains and a world to gain. Like, we have to shed the system that is continuing to allow us to live in destitute, to live in danger, you know? So, I don't know. My solution to everything is let go of this messed up system, but maybe it's too extreme for most people.
No, I mean, well, Chris knows how I am. I don't think most people are extreme enough. That's part of how I see things. If I put it this way, if we took things throughout history, and we looked at them at a very close lens, and we broke these down to very small things. Because when we look at nations and we look at, it gets a little complicated. When we look at too many zeros, things get complicated. So let's break something down. For instance, if I decide, say I attacked Harut and her family, and I took her house, and her great grandchildren come back, is that not still their house that I'm living in? Yes, it would still be their house. And what we've done is, as a nation, in many ways, most of our people at the top decide to have a hypocrisy in everything from the start of how they even got this nation. And so, from that hypocrisy and that supremacist mindset, they were always writing everything, every law with a get out clause for them and a side door, but harsh consequences for everyone else. That's the reason why you're late to work too many times. That can get you suspended, written up, fired. You watch your boss and executives, they stroll in and out whenever they want to. It doesn't matter how late they are. And you notice it once you make it to a certain level, there's different rules. You notice also you'll have a politician who's some kind of local alderman or councilman, and he embezzles, say, $60,000. He goes to jail for 12 years. Then you have somebody on the higher level, like a Manafort, who has tens of millions of dollars that he's embezzling, and he gets like 6 to 8, 9 months. I mean, at some point, we have to start noticing that there's different justice being allocated back and forth. And what we do most of the time is half of us call it out and complain about it. Then the other half of us say, hey, no, you guys have been too hard on them. They didn't know that they were doing this. Just like that one actor, those actresses who were trying to pay money to fraudulently get those kids into school. All of these things like this, and then we all feel sorry for them. And then we want to, oh, well, you shouldn't be that hard on them. But when it comes to us, anybody who's not over that certain, into a certain class level, there's no mercy for you when you make a mistake, or your kids make a mistake, or anybody in your family makes a mistake. Let that rent payment get a little bit too late. It doesn't matter. They're putting that eviction notice on the door. And at some point we have to start realizing it's more of us than them, and we all just sit by and watch each other be picked on and kind of brutalized. I mean, just my thoughts. Sorry to go on a mini rant.
Yeah, no, you're straight. Marcus, I wanted to answer Sign's question. He says, what are they doing in New Zealand, Hong Kong, Vietnam, and Australia to keep their reported numbers so low? It seems to be to me that their medical professionals are not interpreting the PCR test results in the same way that they are interpreting those results here. Because again, according to the inventor of the test, you can interpret the data in a way to make it appear that there is infection, even though it's not what his test was designed for. So here, it just seems to be the standard operating procedure to, oh, I got a patient COVID. I told you, Marcus, before, my father, he's in Queens, he had pneumonia. He also had diverticulitis. His stomach was bothering him. He was in the ER for 2 days. They tested him twice for COVID. It came back negative. They moved my father into the COVID unit in Long Island Jewish Hospital in Queens. You know what I'm saying? And because my pops has worked in the hospital for 40 years or almost 40 years, he kind of knew what time it was. And he started
over there.
Yeah, he started raising hell, and he got himself out of the hospital. And my mother was outside the whole time, not allowed to go in. And when she asked for a record of his visit, Long Island Jewish was like, I don't know what we can send. I don't know what we can release. She's like, at least give us the 2 negative COVID tests. So when we go to another doctor, you know what I mean, that we can show them that this wasn't the issue. They didn't even want to release that information to them. But again, both my parents worked in the medical, they worked in hospitals, nursing homes, psych wards for many, many years, right? So they know how to get the information they need. so they eventually obtain the information. But again, I wonder, was my father counted as a COVID patient because he was put in the COVID unit? You understand what I'm saying? And I think we're seeing a lot of that. So we have to be very skeptical. I'm just saying the information is out there. We should not be so ignorant to just deny and ignore things just because we don't, maybe because we don't believe it right now.
All right, and everybody, Sade has hopped into the stream. Hey, Sade, how you doing?
Good. How you guys doing? I'm sorry. I'm always busy these days.
Oh, well, we're good to have you as long, even if you could just hop in for a little bit and, say hello to everybody, answer a few of the topics, how you view them and what you're thinking. What's been going on as far as like
We got the gangster in the house, kid.
Hello, guys. It's always nice to hear you guys.
Oh yeah.
I'm feeling this. How you guys doing?
We're good.
Yeah, we're surviving. Hope you're doing
Oh,
okay.
yeah. It's 2020. We shall overcome one day. One day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I got a feeling
All right,
it won't be
guys.
too long away.
Y'all go ahead. Go ahead. I'm still thinking.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, can you put on? Can you play the rest of that clip because it gets back into some of the numbers in the international front.
Okay, yeah, hold on one second.
Yeah, I figure we'll play into that, and then it also did bring up a little I guess bad news as far as immigration issues that are going on right now, as far as some of the children which were separated and that had been lost in the system. So I guess once Chris gets that up, and you all know what I'm talking about a little bit more. I think there was something else in there. I guess I'll know at what point to cut it off. But I guess I'll ask for you all and my chat here to give me your thoughts on some of the stuff that's going on. I guess Varian has a comment here. I want to address this directly to you, Mr. Chris, first.
We are ignoring the fact that this isn't a crisis. It's a fake pandemic without an accurate test, with so many false positive and a fake death count. How can we discuss this in the context that it's real? Again, all the information I've seen, I cannot disagree with anything that she wrote. I'm saying I'm into this because, again, I have a 12-year-old. You understand? They're asking me to put something into my kid probably next year. I don't know what's going on here. What I do know is the former director of Pfizer, right, the company that's pushing the vaccine, the former head of the company, let me slow down. The former dude at Pfizer, the company which is applying for emergency use authorization for the vaccine, is saying we need to stop doing this. It's going to lead to sterilization of a lot of little girls. Okay, this is not my opinion. This is the former head of Pfizer saying this. Why is he saying this? Why is he going against everything that everyone in his community is saying? Why? Where is he going to get the money? Is he going to get rich off saying that? What is his benefit to saying that to us? Why?
I don't mean. You know what? I will pass my comment on that one. I will let Sade. Would you like to weigh in on that one?
No, really. Is this vaccine? Are we talking about a COVID vaccine?
They're talking about this whole pandemic. I guess I'll read it out real quick. It says, we are ignoring the fact that this isn't a crisis. It's a fake pandemic without an accurate test, with so many false positives and a fake death count. How can we discuss this in context that it's real? Granted, remember, I am just reading the comment, so nobody come after me.
And Marcus, and real quick, I'm sorry, Sade, I'll just add this one last thing. The guy who made the PCR test, Dr. Kary Mullis, he was arguing with Fauci and Birx and all of the rest of them in the 80s and 90s about his test as it related to HIV and AIDS. Okay? So again, we cannot dismiss that. We have to go and look at these things. We'll be ignorant if we were to dismiss it, just to pay it no mind.
I just feel like that we have to look at it from there.
I think I'm thinking it. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I think we have to think about it from a different perspective. We can't be thinking about it in terms of like the number of positive tests or the number of people who died. You know, when we see people like Michael Brown getting murdered, when we see people like George Floyd getting murdered, we don't specifically look at the numbers. We see the people who were murdered, you know, and we see them and we're like, one person shouldn't have died from this. It's like, yeah, maybe the numbers aren't especially correct, especially in the United States, because A, we're not testing enough, and B, like, we have Trump in there trying to manipulate how everything looks or how everything looked because he was up for re-election. I think that, you know, everyone or every other person knows someone who died from this. And the disproportionate number of people dying from this are people of color. They're the ones who are considered, well, we're the ones who are considered, you know, essential, you know, so we're out here and we're working and we're catching this thing and we're dying, you know, so it's just like, for me, it's not about the numbers, it's about the people, the individuals that died of this, that shouldn't have died of this. You know, we make essential workers this sacrifice when they shouldn't have been a sacrifice. They should have been given the proper equipment. Like if they were going to work, first of all, they should have been paid way more than they're getting paid right now. Like that's a whole other discussion. Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is, like, if it's 10 people, if it's 100,000 people, no one, like, people shouldn't have died from this. This shouldn't have gone as far as it has. And whether or not you question that 250,000 people, that number that we're claiming have died of this in the United States alone, like, it's just this shouldn't have happened. This shouldn't have gone this far. No matter what your opinion is on this. Like, are you going to tell me you haven't met anyone that got sick of this? I got sick of it. I didn't die, but I did get it. I couldn't taste anything for 3 weeks. So for me, like, it's a real thing because I had it, and maybe you haven't had it, and maybe it's not as real to you. Nobody in my family has died of it, but I have known people that I went to school with, like professors and things who have died, who apparently died of this, who aren't coming back because something killed them. And whether or not you agree it's the virus, it was something.
Here, I guess Varian has another comment. I'll let you go. I'll let you guys go. You know, let people hear both sides of it.
I'm just educated. You guys go ahead and speak today. I'm just getting information. I'm sinking it in. Y'all go ahead. I'm just listening.
I think we're making it too much about tests and numbers. These aren't like it's not about that. It's about these individuals who aren't going back to their families, who aren't going to be able to breathe and live another day. Like, it's about having empathy, you know? Are you telling me that, is this person telling me they've never?
So, look, like, speaking in my experience, right? My father is in the hospital. He's in the COVID unit now, right? He was moved from the ER to the COVID unit, right? And he's telling me, like, yo, they don't come and check on you. They come maybe once a day to come and look at you. Your food is placed outside. No housekeeping. The nurses aren't coming because they're scared of catching it. So if you have someone who has a bunch of comorbidities and real health issues, if you're leaving them in the hospital uncared, untreated, what's going to happen to them? They're going to probably pass away, especially if they're, given all of their ages, et cetera, et cetera. People are getting sick, but I also have to question, what happened to influenza B? Did that just go away? Did it just go away? That thing, if you look at past numbers, even Canada, right? Canada, the last 3 years, has had 44,000 cases of influenza, 55,000, and 33,000 the last 3 years. Year 2020, they have 14 cases of influenza. I need somebody to make it make sense to me. Like, it seems to me they're just replacing flu cases and just slapping the COVID label on it, and then we pushing forward with that. It's very dangerous because they're altering our entire system based on this. So we have to be very careful and check these people and check these narratives. The same people telling us about COVID said Assad used chemical weapons on his people, right? Did
I'm
Assad
having a
use
problem.
chemical weapons
Give me a
on
minute.
people? No. Did the Lusitania get sunk? Was that a tourist ship in World War I? No. The Gulf of Tonkin incident in World War for Vietnam, did that happen? No. 9/11, there's a whole bunch of shit about that too. Funny money stuff. So I think if we buy into the narrative, we're doing ourselves injustice. And keep in mind, all of us here is black, and the only people they keep talking about is us in relation to this virus. We got to be very careful about these people who do nothing for us any other time. Nothing. They try to step on us, screw us, do us dirty. And now they say, oh, because of everything, now we're going to take care of you. Now we're going to stick you with this. We got it. We got to be smart. We really do.
Yeah, I guess. If I
Do you
can
mind
add
if I do
something
something real quick?
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean, I think. Sorry, I just needed to get this point out.
Yeah, go ahead.
It just feels like, you know, a lot of those events that you're talking about, you can look at from specifically a political lens. You know, all those events that were used to justify more military action, things like that. But we also have to look at COVID from a political view and like a political lens, and also through a scientific lens. You know, the numbers that you're seeing for the flu in Canada, it might just be that, you know, they're not doing the tests because it's hard to focus on something like the flu when coronavirus is still a serious issue. You know, so to say that, you know, oh, they're using people of color to make this into more of an issue. It's possible that they're doing that. Like, I'm not gonna say that it isn't, because it's been used, but it's been done before, you know. But at the same time, you know, we are people of color. Have you met people who have been infected by this? Have you met people that have died of it? Like, you guys must know this, you know. And for me, again, the numbers, forget the numbers for a second, you know. There are people who are part of our communities that aren't coming back because of this virus. You know, there are people who have done or have tried to live their lives as best as they could, who tried to live like us, to be organizers, who had to put themselves at risk because they had to do their jobs and are dead because of it. Like, this isn't just a numbers game. This is let's humanize people. Let's humanize these numbers. How are you affected? Who do you know that has gotten sick of this? Who do you know that has died of this? You know, just because you still have your mother and your father, how many people have lost their parents to this, their grandparents? You know, so I don't know.
There's been a lot of death, you know, behind this. But again, I'm just questioning if the people who have died from what they're telling us. Dying from, dying with, those are vastly different things, and we should pay attention to that, to make sure that there is a difference between dying from, dying with. Like, even when the New York Times put all the names of the victims in like April of the people who died, you start looking through the names, one of the names was a gunshot victim, and they counted it as a COVID death. So we have to be very careful about what they're doing. And again, if this thing is so bad, why are these nurses making all these videos in these hospitals? It just feels like such a play. And again, we go back and look at AIDS. We're the 3 top places in the world for AIDS: the continent of Africa, Brazil, and then the United States. What do those places all have in common? 1, 2, 3 in terms of black population. So you're telling us we doing something so vastly different in our sexual behavior than the rest of the group, that we have this thing? You telling us? Screwing monkeys, and now all of a sudden we got AIDS in 3 different continents: South America, Africa.
If I could kind of, I guess, kind of.
I'm just asking questions. I'm not coming at you, Haru. I just want you to know that.
No, you're good. Don't worry about it.
No, I think I kind of come in with a middle point perspective. I agree with Haru. I do believe COVID is real. I do believe it's killing people. But just like with Chris, we on our show, we on the political matrix, we went into some of the numbers, and there are some people who it's weird how they're not counting some of the flu numbers. Now, granted, it could be so confusing that all the numbers are getting merged together. That okay, maybe they're just not counting the flu numbers because they're focused too much on the COVID numbers. It could be a mix of a gazillion different factors throughout the different counties and cities and states and, different countries. And so I think with all of those things going on, it can make it hard to have a clear picture on how serious it is, how many people are actually dying from it, how many people are not dying from it, how many people are having it, and some of their other symptoms, like what Sign said, had an aunt who died of old age, daughter who died round 2 cancer, neighbor that died, and then cancer, heart attack. I mean, and so I have an uncle who just died of testicular cancer. And so I believe that there's a mixture of just a lot of people dying also. And some of those can be cancer, which can induce flu symptoms, which can be interpreted sometimes, I believe, or marked down as some of these COVID cases inaccurately. And I think that that's kind of the middle ground, that it might be a little bit of a mixture of both. I mean, I do think it's serious and it's real. It's something that we do need to keep in mind, but we do need to also, I guess, keep an eye out for if people are trying to use it in ways of manipulation. Because one thing I do know is our government has a history of, when crises arise, take advantage of the crisis and use it for political gain. And so we all know that much, at least. So I feel like we should keep that in mind. And then I guess we'll go on ahead and go on to another topic. This is what I teased at the beginning of the show. I said as a kid, I was always big into all the kind of UFO things and stuff like that. And I saw this really good segment on the Rising that was done by Sagar and Jetty. I know he's a conservative, and some of you guys don't like conservatives, but he does good work a lot of times. And this was an interesting segment. I think he's on with
Don't he work with Katie? What her name is?
He's there with Crystal Ball.
Oh, Crystal Ball. Okay, yeah. I knew it was a K. I just remember
I
which.
believe in this segment he has Ryan. I can't remember his name right now. Oh goodness. Well, you all will see, but we'll talk about it after the clip. Do you have it ready, Chris?
We ready, man. It's you got to add it. You have to add it. Yeah, son. I was trying to be on point, kid.
Yup, you're ready. There we go.
Developments in the last couple of days on UFOs, and yes, because Crystal is out, I'm going to cover this UFO as I want to. Not that it's against it, not that it's against it. I'm just very into it. Okay, so
Turn up a little bit.
On a website called The Debrief. Let's throw this up there. So The Debrief, very interesting news organization on science, tech, and aerospace, spoke officials about the UAPTF. Now, I want everybody to take that in. The Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force. Now, this task force, we talked a lot about that here.
Wait, pause that real quick.
Congress and the Intelligence Committee. Well, it turns out, according to The Debrief, they spoke with a bunch of officials about a new report that's been circulating around the Pentagon and within the intelligence community. Now, I'm going to read some direct quotes to everyone. Everyone The Debrief spoke with said that the most striking feature of a recent report was the inclusion of a new, extremely clear photograph of an unidentifiable triangular aircraft. Now, yesterday, The Debrief published these photos. So the first one, let's go back to that first one. And you can see clearly it was taken with a cell phone camera from an aircraft. This was an FA-18 fighter pilot, and it was captured somewhere over the ocean. I also want to explain here the behavior. So 2 officials that received that report said, quote, the photo was taken after the triangular craft emerged from the ocean and began to ascend straight upwards at a 90-degree angle. So, Ryan, you've had the privilege of being here and having participated now in 2 UFO segments. Your reaction to this news? Real bombshell stuff, man.
This is amazing stuff. And what?
Want me to pause it?
What's amazing to me too?
You want me to pause it or let it keep going?
Yeah, pause it.
Okay.
All right. I don't know if you all noticed that first part in there. They said like an AGT. I don't remember what it was, but they said some kind of task force. So they've literally created a task force to try to detect these things because it's happening so common and so frequently. This is just one of them that I saw, but one of the other ones I saw, it almost looked like an orb or a glowing light. Maybe sometime we'll go in and we'll bring up some of those videos on that. But I just thought it was pretty interesting that we're starting to see these all of a sudden. And I know plenty of people out there are not people of faith, but I always thought it was something interesting. One Negro spiritual, which they used to sing all the time back in the slave days, and it got passed down, was "Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry us home." And so it's literally talking about a chariot in the sky that they were hoping it's going to come low to bring them home.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the Bible, it's kind of interesting. There's a bunch of other verses where it talks about the angels riding chariots in the sky, and things like that. But that I guess you guys get the point from the video. But what do you think about that, Haru?
I mean, I am not particularly religious. I mean, I did grow up getting an education in Christianity. I went to Catholic school my entire life.
Or well, what is that thing? What do you think that thing could be then? Just in
I have
general.
no idea what that thing could be. I really have no idea. I couldn't tell you, but it just feels like that the what's it called, the new agency that's being created to identify unidentified flying objects. It might also be just being used to identify drones as well, because the government does have like this, like it wants to have this stronghold over our airspace, and it's just like more and more people are flying drones, and maybe they're not able to identify all of them that do it. So maybe it's more about controlling us instead of, controlling any new life forms that might be trying to come in contact with us. I mean, I remember there are a lot of theories out there as to like why we haven't gotten in contact with new life, extraterrestrial life. And one of the theories actually stated that we either might be like the first sentient beings that have existed, or there were older sentient beings that existed, but at a time way far in the past, maybe millions of years ago. I mean, the universe is very old; it's billions of years old. So we might not be living even in the same time as these other beings. So I don't know. It could be something extraterrestrial. I don't know. Like, I can't say I really know. It's interesting. It would be interesting if it was. Although, to be honest, I'd be more terrified if it was, because we don't know what kind of creature. Like, if they're anything like people, I don't want to be around them. Just because, I mean, we've seen the destruction that people have done on this planet, just on this planet. So.
Haru is funny.
The drone.
I'm telling you, if it turned out to be aliens, I'm telling you, they're gonna be trying to microchip them too.
I think the aliens want to stay away from us. They probably see what we're doing, and they're just like, nah, stay away from them. Earth is not with it.
Like we gonna go there after they kill themselves.
I remember some comedian, he made a joke. He said, like, aliens, He said Earth is like when aliens go past Earth, it's like that's the place where they roll up their windows.
Yeah, I heard that one. I've heard that one.
When they lock their door, you walk past, you hear a click. It's pretty
Oh
funny.
well, let's see. Yeah, well, we're about an hour, close to an hour and a half. I am getting a little bit hungry myself, so I'm going to. I guess we can wrap it up here. Next week, I'm going to actually bring some more UFO videos because I've seen some other ones that are even crazy. Well, that one's just showing a picture and it's talking about it, but the other one, when you see how this thing moves, I mean, because I got to dig through. Chris knows I have like literally probably like 500 videos like buried through all my different researches. And so it'll take me a while to go and track it down. But when I track it down, I'll make sure to have it for no matter what's going on politically. We're gonna talk about crazy UFO stuff at some point in the show next week.
All right, I'm for it.
All right. Anything that you either the two of you had that you wanted to I guess mention, or something that we should focus on, or back on a more serious note, if there's people around that we can try to help in different ways that we haven't really put our heads together and thought about yet.
Let's hit up that 0.
I mean, I feel like the most that we could do right now is help our neighbors, like know what's going on with your friends, your family, help when you can, and even when like a lot of people can't because they're going through a lot of people are going through financial hardship. If you can't help, focus on yourself, focus on your mental health, take care of yourselves, because you can't help other people until you help yourself. So I am learning this myself. I've been going through a lot of mental health issues, financial issues. It's a hard time. Don't blame yourself if you can't be productive.
Don't go crazy, Mom. Don't go crazy. Please don't.
Yep.
Deal with us.
Amen.
From the side.
I was going to say, Marcus, just what's today? Today's December 6th. I guess at some point the Electoral College is going to have to announce that one of these guys is the president. So I guess between on the 14th or the 21st or 22nd of December, I guess they'll certify. Don't get crazy if it goes another way. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking it's going to be Biden, Kamala, but in the event that it's not, and things go crazy and people want to go outside, this is not your battle. Do not go get involved in that. Do not.
They don't fight for you. Why fight for them?
See, back on those chariots. I mean, you don't want to be like those people who are rushing down there with the signs on Independence Day, and they get blew up with the building. You might want to stay inside on some of this stuff.
Underground.
And myself in some of my beliefs. Now I know people hear me talk about Bible and beliefs, but if you're ever truly curious and want me to go in depth, DM me and we can go in depth because it is not a short conversation. And it is definitely not what you would assume or what you think most people. I guarantee you, it's not what you think at all. It's definitely very, very different, and it's all directly biblical. And the Bible is just not what most people think. We had something else that I'll put it out in the message, whatever other stuff that I can come up with. I want us all to also focus on some of the things that are going on with some of the movements with some of the countries as far as foreign affairs. I've noticed that Iran, Russia, well, I said it in my show last night, but Iran, Russia, China, and I believe Turkey have been working on supersonic missiles. And so that's something that we need to keep in mind. Also with the recent assassination of the nuclear scientists by the Israelis, that tension ratcheted up. And then if you think back not that long ago, we had the thing with General Soleimani. So just keep aware of all of these things. If you are a person who travels, especially overseas, I do not advise it, especially if you're in any region of the so-called Middle East, which if you call it the Middle East around me, I'm going to think that you do not know anything about geography, because there's no such thing as the Middle East. It's Africa. So that said, this has been what I've been thinking. The panel, I've been here with my two good friends and hosts, Chris and Harut. I wish you all a wonderful rest of your weekend. Those out there, kicking back with a good book, it's a good thing to do. Keep digging into history. That's the only way you're going to find out what the hell is going on right now.
Yeah.
That said, hope you all have a good one. Thank you for joining us.